people were douching with fucking Lysol. And the ad intimates that her man had sort of left her because she had a stinky crotch. And I thought, wow, this is like generational conditioning about us. Hey there, it's Kirsten Karchmer and another episode of The Building of Brazen. And today is such an exciting day because my book, Seeing Red, was published today with Simon & Schuster. And this has been a long journey. Essentially, this is what I've been working on for the last 20 years in terms of understanding, like as a clinician, as a reproductive acupuncturist, that's what I did for 20 years. And I was able to have the privilege of working with well over 10,000 women, trying to improve their menstrual cycles and fertility outcomes. Everything that I learned about how to do that is basically in this book. And, essentially what I was trying to do was understand how 80% of women can be sick from their periods every single month and nobody's talking about it. If nobody's talking about it now, what's the genesis? Like, what was happening at the beginning of time? What was happening 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago? And as an acupuncturist, I know there are texts, from the Qing Dynasty, like 1700, that were medical texts about gynecology and reproductive acupuncture. But what are the texts that the common people were talking about and reading, saying about menstruation? What I was surprised to find was that for 1,500 years, the earliest first 1,500 years of written language, there was nothing. There was nothing written about menstruation and people with periods. And in the first kind of publicly written commentary around menstruating women was in the Bible, where the book of Leviticus talks about, women are filthy, that thing is so filthy, it's as filthy as the devil or a menstruating woman. And shortly after that, Aristotle says, women are the inferior species because they menstruate. And in fact, he said that women only contribute the serum to reproduction, which is like the menstrual blood. They didn't know about the ovum yet. And that the man contributes the sperm, which contains the spirit and the intellect. And I thought, wow, that is why we are so ashamed still of our periods. I was completely sick when I read that, because I don't know if you've ever been to therapy before and you're like, I don't know why I'm so anxious, or why I feel, I'm so upset, or why I'm so depressed. And then the therapist finally says, well, you've got this going on, you got this going on, you got this going on, you got this going on. And suddenly you have this moment of compassion where you're like, well, fuck yeah, of course I'm depressed or anxious or whatever. I have so much shit going on. Any person would feel this way. And when I read about the early language around menstruation and especially what you see is persistent is filth and inferiority. And I thought, wow, this is like generational conditioning about us. We're inferior, that we're filthy, that is still perpetuated until today. And if you don't believe me, you can just walk down the aisle at Target and see how many times a product says sanitary something on it. You can see how many times something is used to deodorize, or that has scent, or that's a douche. And I mean, even so much so, like in the 50s, I did a lot of research for the book on this, and one of the things that I read was that in the 50s, women were douching like crazy, and people were douching with fucking Lysol. And in the ad, there's this sort of forlorn woman, and she's like on the bed, and the ad intimates that her man had sort of left her because she had a stinky crotch. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. And so the book basically starts at the beginning and talks about all of this, and then gets us to sort of like why the menstrual cycle is important, why it matters right now, how this relationship with the menstrual cycle and the filth associated and the shame associated with it is keeping women from asking for help or knowing to advocate for themselves around the suffering that they're having around, PMS, around their menstrual cramping. We have to start to, as a collective, come together to really not just talk about ending the stigma, but really finding ways to actively break that stigma so that every person with a period will come forward and get the help that they need and require to have a great life and to feel great about their period and feel great about being a person with a period. So that's sort of the intro of the book. Then we go into some of the nitty-gritty about particular problems. And then the end is a call to action around the movement around the work that we're doing to try to galvanize every single person with a period to come together around our health, our present health, and our future health. So for today, I just wanted to read a short segment from the introduction for you so you could get a chance. Here it is again. You can order it from Amazon. Introduction. 1.7 billion people on this planet menstruate. That means 4.2 million of them are having their periods right now. More than 80% of them suffer from significant and life-interrupting premenstrual syndrome and cramping. That's a really big deal for women, people with periods, and their health. And so to me, it's shocking that no one seems to be talking about it until now. If you are one of the 3.4 million women who are suffering every month, if your sister, your friend, your daughter suffers, or if you are a partner of someone who is suffering, then this book is for you. Your menstrual cycle is a barometer of your health. And while I will teach you how to improve your period and use your cycle as a diagnostic tool for your overall health, this book isn't just a period fix-it book. It's an exploration of a world where women are filled with so much shame about their periods that they've suffered in silence for almost a century. Actually, I would say almost 3,000 years probably. Once you understand how this deeply rooted and systemic stigma affects us even today, I'll move on to helping you better understand your cycle and how to optimize it. Lastly, we will look at what we, as menstruating people, can do as a community to liberate ourselves and others from the shame, stigma, and suffering of menstrual cycles so that we can reclaim our bodies, our health, and our identities, and then take over the world. That's your introduction. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you order the book, and more importantly, I hope that you share what you learn from it with your friends and your loved ones, because you could make a difference for someone. Love you, and please comment, share, let us know what you're thinking, let us know what your questions are. On the website, if you click the chat bot, you will always get one of us answering personally, so let us know how we can help.